Let me tell you.
I caught part of this movie on YouTube. My friend was showing it to me. Um, it's like Ghost Jaws or something like that.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
have to
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
with the Hulk
Mhm.
Hogan impersonator.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. So he was like, "You got to see this," and then we just kept watching it, and the whole time we just kept screaming like Hulk Hogan lines over the actual dialogue. It made the movie a lot better.
Remember to say your prayers, eat your vitamins, listen to your mom and dad. Whew, what you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you? Good, it's appropriate. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the spoiler room. It is appropriate to talk about muscles because there'll be a lot of muscle talk tonight and glorious glistening abs as we continue our killer concert series with a look at 1987's Rock and Roll Nightmare. And joining me tonight is a great crew to discuss this interesting film starring a different Thor than what's in theaters right now. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, my crew tonight, we have her back with us once again. So great to have her. It is Miss Angelique Bone. Hello, Angelique. How are you?
Hello, I'm fantastic. How are you?
So great. Love the glasses. And
Thanks.
man, you just coming in nice and clear now.
I know
So
there's actual internet here. I'm in lovely Savannah, and boy,
oh,
it's great.
Savannah, we'll talk later. Uh, and of course, as always, the man who keeps coming back for more, though after tonight, I don't know if he will. It is none other than the one and only Rotten Tomatoes critic, Mr. Ian Simmons. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. And I'll look. I messaged you earlier, the
I
both of
know.
you, and I said that this might be a bridge too far. What the hell, Mark? That Rock and Roll Nightmare changed my life. There are a few milestone movies that we get to see as we get older, and this is one of them. I am now part of the John Michael Thor official fan club, Skokie chapter,
Hey,
and
there
I'm
you go.
excited to talk about this movie. This is like, as I was describing it to my wife, it's like a Canadian rock and roll horror movie, but it's also got a lot of The Room in it. Like
Mhm.
Oh,
Tommy,
sure,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
think this was actually the inspiration for Tommy Wiseau to give us his masterpiece. 20 years later or whatever. I'm convinced.
You tear me apart, Lisa. Oh, hi, Mark. Because of that movie, people named Mark have never lived their name down again.
Mhm.
And
If your
someday
name,
I'm sure you'll get to meet Mr. Wiseau and thank him in person for that.
yeah, I literally came out of my work one time during winter and it had snowed, and someone actually wrote in the snow, "Oh, hi, Mark," with the HAI Mark. Kid you? Yeah. But we're not
That's
talking about
gorgeous.
so the rock and roll horror film equivalent of The Room apparently we are talking about tonight. And since she hasn't been with us for a while and she is a Chuck Tingle fan, let's have her give the synopsis of Rock and Roll Nightmare.
How does one sum up a film like Rock and Roll Nightmare? Truly.
I
I
do
mean,
not know.
we can only go so far. I mean, we're going to spoil it regardless, y'all. So,
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
if you haven't seen it, just hit pause and go see it and come back. But so
It'll
Rock
only
and Roll
take
Nightmare.
84 minutes, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so and the name of the band has been wiped from my brain, but John
Triton.
Michael
Triton.
Triton, yes. John Michael Thor and his band Triton go to a um a house in a suburb. It's definitely not a deserted place, but it's in some suburb
It's like
It's
a
a
somewhere.
farmhouse.
farm.
There's like a
It's a
tractor outside.
farmhouse.
Yeah, which
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
It's a little.
understand given the final shot of the movie. We'll talk about that later. Sorry.
But they're being pressed to finish their latest album, so they go to this place. It's a farmhouse with a full recording studio and audio booth in the barn to work on the album, but things are not all hunky-dory, as the farmhouse apparently is a portal to hell.
Yeah,
And
I believe so. Yeah. Well, I mean, the movie was originally called Edge of Hell.
okay, well,
So.
that works. Yeah. So, they get attacked by several small latex
One-eyed monsters.
hell puppets. Yeah. Penises
Literally
with teeth.
one-eyed monsters.
Yeah.
Cock
Yeah.
monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Cock monsters.
Cock
And
rock monsters.
a giant grasshopper with fangs. And there's a big twist at the end that I'm gonna save for our conversation.
We'll save for the conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely. You've got to save the.
But there's a showdown between good and evil.
Good and evil, yes.
Complete with Astroglide.
Completely with Astroglide. Both on the pecs and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I can't, just before I forget, because I've been up a while and I don't want to let this pass. In that climactic confrontation, our hero, and I'm not going to say who it is yet, is revealed kind of like a worm's eye view of their half-naked, glistening body, kind of like flexing with the spirit of righteousness. With that angle and with the lighting, it looked like he had 4 heaving, beautiful breasts.
It did.
I know
that was
some of that was like pecs, but it was just the angle. He looked like he had 4 big tits.
It's
his mighty rib cage.
His mighty rib cage. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was looking at, but I was taken.
I'm familiar with that angle, so
it's been paused often. It's been paused often on Angelique's copy.
It's called the Thor on the floor.
She's like, I'm
as
glad
a
this
student
is
of the male form. You know?
I'm glad this isn't a VHS tape anymore. I kept wearing that spot out.
It's burned into the TV.
It's the joys of digital. I
Yeah,
was going to make that my wallpaper. I mean, it's impressive. It's so,
more impressive was the eyeshadow.
the eyeshadow was perfect.
I mean, he does a better cat eye than me.
I don't know who did his makeup, but yeah, good old Thor, right? so
It looks remarkably. There are some angles, and particularly at the end, where he looks like Jimmy Fallon in like a rock wig. I don't know what it is, but it's very strange.
Well, now I'm not.
And then he had the Zoolander moments.
Yeah.
And a shower scene, which, given the context of what we find out about his character, you really have to wonder what was going on in that stall.
A lot of conflict.
Lots.
Well, he's not that type of. Well, anyway.
Fighting tongues.
So getting down to it, yeah, okay. So, Angelique, when did you first see Rock and Roll Nightmare?
I first saw Rock and Roll Nightmare when I was writing for The Lost Highway, and we were actually trying to get a podcast up and going.
Mm-hmm.
And the gang, they were like, "Okay, we're gonna watch this one," and I said, "Okay," and oh boy, what an experience!
It's definitely an experience. I mean, yeah,
I mean, my life was forever changed, just like Ian's was. You know? Once you see Rock and Roll Nightmare, you can't really go back to your normal way of living.
It's you can't go back to your normal way of living, and you never look at rock and roll quite the same way again. You know, it just adds a whole nother level to your heavy metal.
Yes.
So, Ian, what about you? First time viewing was what, this morning?
Yeah. But you know, I have since quit my job and devoted myself to following, because I found out that John Michael Thor is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you know, still doing it, right? So yeah. I'm just going to follow him like the Grateful Dead. I've written a long letter to my family, which I will slip Tooth Fairy style under each of their pillows, And
I've gone to follow Thor, and they're all thinking Chris Hemsworth. No, the other Thor,
the real Thor,
the real Thor.
Yeah.
Thor before Thor.
And it's a deceptive movie because his character he's the leader of the band, but the movie is not at all interested in him or his wife / girlfriend or whatever. For most of the picture, they're interested in these other people who are, other band members who are kind of pairing up and going off and fooling around and rocking out and stuff. It's not until very late in the movie where he and his girlfriend are like literally the only ones left that you're like, oh, I guess this is going to be the final guy and girl. And wait, now she's gone and now it's just him. What's going on? And we'll talk more about that later. I want to spoil it too early.
No, we don't want to spoil the ending too early, because if it wasn't for the ending that you have, and we will talk about it near the end of the show, I don't think this film is as memorable as this is one of those where you may start off weak, but if you finish strong, people will remember your film far better than if you start off strong but your movie ends weak. That's this film, because especially the first half of it, outside of the opening, which has this random family it just living in this farmhouse, and some weird things start to happen, and the kids, like, the husband's looking for the wife, and she opened up the fridge. I love how subtle it is. She opened up the fridge and they cut away just as you see a little bit of red light, like just a peek enough. And then the mom's disappeared. Then the husband comes into the kitchen. The kid's like, where are we? He's looking from the steps because she's screaming. And he's like, where are you? And then I think it was intended to either be her or a demon, because it's got fangs.
Yeah.
At first I thought maybe it was supposed to be her, but then it had fangs. So I thought, okay, maybe it's one of the demons, comes out and attacks the dad. The kid sees this, and then we fade to, black to our van, our band van. And
fantastic van.
And then we get into something similar to what people might have seen recently in Studio 666.
Yes, exactly.
Studio 666, that is what the beginning part of that reminded me a lot of this film. If you've seen it. And yeah, so part of it's, but we get introduced to the characters, and what do you think of our band, Ian?
I don't. I mean, like,
especially the guy with the accent, who, after he has what happens to him with the curse, suddenly he loses his accent,
and nobody notices.
And that's the thing, is I had to go back. What is this? I rented this on Amazon. I went like, because his accent revelation happens like 3/4 the way through. I rewound all the way back to the beginning. I'm like, yep, that fucker had an Australian accent
he did
for most of this movie. And then I was like, okay, yeah, to your point, Mark, maybe after he got, kind of taken over by the spirits of the house, it kind of gave him this, regular sounding lame accent.
Yeah.
But then why wouldn't, I think it was Luann was the girl he was with. Why wouldn't she say something? They're having this intimate moment on the beach. And he's like, yeah, I got a surprise for you. It's going to be like nothing you ever seen before. Whereas before he's like, crikey, this is a great house we're in. Got to make some beautiful music.
The worst accent ever. I don't know why he's even doing an accent. They just gave him a character. But I'm like, it's the worst accent too. It's just like, why are you even doing that?
Well, let's also rewind back to, okay, we've got this dead family in the house. And then we see the band show up, and it's all like, oh, this is a historical house. And, RCA Records used to lend this out. And Alice Cooper and Rod Stewart, or whoever the hell, used to record in that barn. I'm like, so at what point did just some like lower middle class family move into this house and then get murdered?
It is explained that in 10 years that the house actually hasn't been old. So they were 10 years. We didn't get a 10 years later, but the manager states on how there hadn't been a family there for 10 years, but they had a recording studio and it was used by RCA and then a couple of other folks. Who, he's told by the groundskeeper, who I wish would have showed up more. I loved that guy. That guy had some stories, I tell you.
Yeah, but still, if you've got like this historical spot where all these people have recorded,
Yeah.
classic album, it's like no one's moving into Abbey Road to like set up condos or something. It's going to be like a landmark or something like that. Yeah, it was just a weird leap, which there's a lot of weird leaps in this movie. But yeah, when the monsters finally, the first creature we see, I think, is the penis monster.
Yeah, the
right?
one-eyed monster. Yeah,
That comes out and spits spits into the paper cup to infect the one girl who gets the guy, or was it the guy?
It was the manager. He spit into the cup for the manager.
Okay, I thought he got seduced by someone. I was like, after the end of this movie, like most of the stuff before the last 20 minutes, I just kind of blanked out.
It just kind of blurred.
It was the Astroglide and the abs that did it for me. I was hypnotized.
It was that wonderful light from behind that
slipped
just
your mind.
Yes,
and the glistening
slipped a lot.
abs
Yeah,
end up just distracting you for the rest of it. You're like, this is where the film starts. Okay.
Yeah. What are you guys talking about? It's only a 20-minute movie we watched, right, guys? You're talking about like titles and vans and stuff. All I remember is Rock Gods.
And we do have comments working again. Info Bob is here. He goes, he thinks this year or maybe the year before or later, Wasp leader singer Blackie Lawless was in the film called Dungeon Master. Actually, that was from 1984. So that was like 3 years prior to this. Blackie was in a Dungeon Master. So, rock and roll and film, and especially indie film, has always gone together. And especially you look in the last, just over the history of independent and B movies, it seems to go hand in hand with rock and roll, and this is one of the films I think that helped kind of start that trend quite a bit, and yeah, you get the manager who gets his cup spit in by the one-eyed monster, and the spirits in here, I think, occasionally pose as other members. I don't think the members were possessed. They were just posing as other members. And that's how they were able to then seduce them, I believe.
Which, when you get to the end of the movie, makes absolutely no sense at all.
Right.
But
well, no, it's not supposed to.
Again, yeah.
You don't care, but yeah,
Don't
you're
force
absolutely
it.
right. You don't force it.
It's kind of like that Usual Suspects thing where you got to go back and watch the movie to see all the answers and things you missed. If you do that for this movie, you realize that none of it makes any goddamn sense.
See, the way I took it was one-eyed monster splooges into the coffee. He drinks the coffee, and then when he goes down, he hallucinates the one girl, the one actress who in her contract had no problems taking her top off because she was like the only one who actually showed anything. Never mind. Anyway.
Well, she did it multiple times.
And multiple times too. Yeah. So she had no problem. They found one actress that was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. And then they were like, okay, cool, you're doing this scene. It's that wonderful like Fright Night type face as she bites into the manager.
Yeah, like
the
paper mache monster or something. What was that about?
What the mask was awesome. I love the effects in this film. It was made on $54,000. What do you expect?
You got some balls calling these effects. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, you know what? Those Halloween Express masks put in some good work.
Yeah. Wait, did you say $54,000?
According to IMDb, the budget for this film was $54,000.
And 45,000 of that was on lube.
Canadian. Well,
Yeah.
it was shot on 16 millimeter. It was shot on 16 millimeter film. So it was shot on film. So I imagine a good chunk of their budget actually went to the film because they filmed it on 16 millimeters. So that even in 87, that couldn't have been too cheap,
Yeah.
And it did get a theatrical release, I believe, in Greece, whereas pretty much everywhere else it was a direct-to-video release. But in Greece, hey,
this did strike me as a very Greek film in a lot of ways.
Very, very Greek film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So we've got our manager who's your standard manager. You got your creepy house, and you got your band members. One of them with a bad accent. It was okay. Pardon me for saying this, but it was hard to keep track of the actors because outside of Thor, they all look very similar.
Thank you. It was like, here's a Ken doll, and we're just gonna change one piece of clothing, and he's gonna play all the different male characters.
They all look like James Cameron from this era, pretty much.
They did, all of them, but Thor, who I mean, at this time, 87, he still had his Mr. Universe body going on. So because he was a model, and actually watching that interview that what Metal Voices did or whatever, he's talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was interesting. You say bad things about me. Not true. Well, maybe it's true, but he should have said them. But anyway, so yeah, we got our band members, and I found it really tough to tell who was who. Even when you get when they got alone, and you get the one, demon woman getting the manager, and then most of the women, I think, got demonically possessed first. It seemed like, and then the manager ends up finding these random groupies who show up at one point.
Well, they find him because they hear the band's in town.
Yeah.
So they go up to the house, and the manager lets them in. And it was really touch and go there for a minute, because when they're all in the kind of the vestibule of the house, and he's like, okay, let's take off the clothes. Let's see the goods. You got to see those. I can't remember exactly the phrase, but he basically ordered them to take off their tops.
Take out your breasts.
They got the boobs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one girl is kind of like, she was like unsure about it, but she was also like on the cusp of actually doing it. And fortunately, her friends were like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, no. And then, what did he say? And then he's like, come on, whip out the bazongas or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Bazoomas,
80s.
Yeah.
But I was like, because sometimes, especially we talk about this, Mark, watching things through the 2020 lens. There are some moments where I'm like, yeah, that's, it's fine. It's okay. It was just the 80s. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about in terms of like the gross sexism of like exploitation films.
Yeah.
But, fortunately, they all turned and ran, or not ran, but they just left the house unaware of the kind of danger that they were in. I was surprised that he let them go. Like, what?
See, I was
what was
wondering
that about?
too if they really got out, because they didn't go back to the front door.
Well, no, they went through
into
the dining room or whatever it was. So he led them a different way. I don't think they got out. I think they either became starfish demons, or they became more of the one-eyed monsters, because yes, folks, we're talking about it now. Throughout this film, there's not just the one penis monster. There's a few others that show up, and they have different hairstyles, and they're different. And I took that as those being
they're the inspiration for the minions.
They were the inspiration for the minions. But only that has a completely different meaning in this film. But I took it that the one-eyed monsters were actually the souls that were taken over by whatever, when they were, when the band members were taken over.
I missed it. I thought that they had just like left.
No, they went the other way. They did not go out the front door, though they should have. They end up taking a detour. He says, okay, come on, let's go wake up the band members, when they wouldn't take their breasts out. He said, okay, well, let's just
big
go
cocaine party.
From their big cocaine party. I loved how he was just very blunt about it. He's like, well, they had a big cocaine party. It's like 2:30 now. They'll be up in 20 minutes. The dialogue in this is just hilarious, and so much dishwashing. So they always went to the dishwashing, which on one hand is good. They were washing dishes, but at the same time, you're like, again with the dishwashing, and they even had that comment of the band members go, let's go, because the whole thing is they're here to record music, folks. Triton is under contract, and they got an advance And the most they have to come up with is 10 minutes of new music. It's not even like a whole album. They've got to record like 10 minutes of new music
in a month.
In a month. That's like it's like 2 songs. I'm like what the hell, man? Especially, considering the 2 songs we hear are like 4 minutes long. So I mean, yeah, it's
well, it's also I totally lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No, you were too busy thinking about the one-eyed monsters and abs. I know. So.
Well, I did do an unnatural amount of pausing so I could write down some of the song lyrics
because they are rock.
Yeah. It's,
lay it on us, Ian.
What I'm not going to sing it because I don't want people to tune out. But yeah, what's the sound moving through the ages? What's the sound burning all the pages? Rock. Talking about rock.
Rock.
Here's a song. I presume it's called Energy. Energy takes me where I want to be, and you're where I want to be. You give me, wait for it, energy.
Poetry.
This is like motivational stuff. I set my goals and I pace myself and plan out all my moves. But when I'm starting to fall apart, well, baby, I turn to you to give me energy.
There we go. We got to get the light going. See, I don't have a lighter, so I'll get the flashlight on my phone. See, there we go.
I'm not going to say it's good music, but I was like, this is a lot of fun. This is not just like BS, movie rock. It's ridiculous and cheesy, but they really into it.
They paid for all these songs. They're going to use every second.
well, he recorded them. I think himself because he is an artist. So, so these are their songs. So he the musician, and the songs are fun. I mean, completely put you in the 80s in this, but you can tell they're having fun making this film. That's the whole thing. Is this thing has a lot of heart behind it. And I love that we get a variety of not just the one-eyed monsters, but we get we get costume monsters too, that seduce people, like the one guy who was the bass player who was with the one girl and she suddenly went to touch his hand. I love that the way they cut it, this whole scene where they had this the love, they had love making, and then she disappeared, I think it was, or whatever. Then the other girl comes back and she's all in lingerie and her hand comes out and he's like, oh, and then just as he's about to touch, she turns into like Creep Show. It's like
ketchup spitting demon.
Yeah, right. Ketchup spitting demon. Yeah, because it's like blah, blah. So I mean, there's effort put in here. That's the thing,
There is, but this is my contention. Like, I think I saw this listed as like a horror comedy. It's not really, because sometimes I think horror comedy, in order to get that genre label, has to be intentional, and it's got to be well done. It's like Tucker and Dale versus Evil Dead 2. Those are horror comedies. I think a lot of people confuse horror comedies with horror movies that are just laughably bad, and that's what most of this movie is up until the end. And then I'm like, I can't classify this thing at all. But it was disappointing because I'm watching this thinking, you've got all these monster effects. None of them are done well. The acting is terrible. So was this made to be anything but a chance to see a bunch of naked people and have some rock and roll? Like, there's no atmosphere here.
I'm not seeing what's wrong with this logic behind a motivation for a film, naked people and rock and roll. But what I think it is, and what's funny is when they shot it, apparently there was 10 minutes short of the the required runtime. So like the footage in the van in the beginning when they're driving was all extra shot, like coverage shot that they shot later to help stretch the film out to 80 some minutes. Because
that makes a lot of sense, because that's something that confused me in the beginning. After the family gets killed, it's all like black screen with the white titles.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like 5 minutes of this van driving around. I'm like, why didn't you just have the titles over the van footage? And now I know why.
Yeah, and that's why apparently they shot some so they could get it to feature length, 80 feature. Well, you needed at least 80 minutes, so it comes in at 83. So there you go. Yeah. What's funny is if you don't label it as horror right away, the way the film starts out, while it is low budget and like you said, the aesthetics and that are there. I don't know, Angelique. It's not horrible. I mean, as far as way the edit and stuff is, it moves.
Yeah.
It does move. You could easily have just blocks of 5 minutes of dialogue back and forth, but we have cuts in that. I mean,
Yeah.
they are taking an effort, aren't they?
I mean, it's well shot. I mean, for what it is, it's well shot. There is a story, even though it doesn't make much sense.
No.
And like you said, it's well edited. It has a soundtrack. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I just want to set the table here. When you say well shot, you're talking about they at least remember to take the cap off the camera, right?
I mean,
it's well shot for what
that's
it
where the
is.
bar is for me.
If you've watched some other films from this era that are of this small of budget and small of crew, you can it puts it slightly above some of many of those others that were shot, because there is at least some technique, not a lot. I'm not saying oh wow, but what I'm saying is, compared to, for the type of film this is, some of the technical aspects of it are better than expected. Okay,
sure. And I think we see a lot of that in that third act, where it gets really strange, and there's some kind of fun stuff that goes on, and certainly during the scenes where they're filming like the music video style of them rehearsing. I just think they should have taken some of that style and ingenuity, I'll call it, and applied it to the horror scenes, because I understand low budget filmmaking and all that, but when you've got monster effects that are this bad, but you don't have the cheekiness of the spirit of the film to make fun of it really, then it just comes off as really amateurish. I'm like, you can make certain things scary through lighting or music or whatever, and you can kind of tell that they are imitating other movies that maybe they've seen that have horror stuff in them. But I'm just watching, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this. It's not good. It just feels like they should have waited a few years till they got more money or more experience and make it something like scary. It's just bad. But it's redeemed later on in the film.
It is redeemed,
I love this movie, but watching it for the first time, I just... Now that I know everything that it is, it kind of works. But if, like I said, if that third act hadn't been there, this would have been not worth talking about.
I'm just wondering if they used the same bedroom for every sex scene and they just like moved the mattress from one side of the room to the other.
I was wondering that, because that twin bed looked awfully familiar.
That twin bed looked familiar. So did the room. It's blank, and you're just like, wait a minute, wait. They kept going through the same door.
And then you had that sign on the window, like, "Thou shalt not participate in bad scenes."
Yeah. What I love too is as the band members are getting possessed and disappearing, kind of, and Thor and his his significant other are like, where are the band members always? Where is everybody? What the heck? They think they're all off doing whatever, coke or each other or whatever. And then suddenly we get the kid back. We just randomly get the kid back, who's spying in on our couple of lovebirds, which luckily he's spying in after they're done with their lovemaking. I think it was the married couple.
No, it was the keyboard player and
that's right,
bass player.
That's right. The two that were enamored with each other, but hadn't hooked up till like right now.
Right.
That's right. They're the ones that actually get the kind of love scene where the camera, there's more than two shots of the lovemaking scene. They kind of pan up, and it
goes on forever, and they've got like the tender lovemaking music, as if this is like two characters that we've been following for years and hoping that they're going to get together, and so these two randos. But yeah, we can't just gloss over the lovemaking scene, Mark, because, and this is where I question the filmmaking abilities. At one point, they're kind of going at it slowly, and
Yeah.
the camera gradually trails from their heads down to their like semi-naked bodies because they're partially obscured by the blanket. When it gets down to like halfway down the blanket and you're wondering, wait, why are you focusing on this? The camera actually drops out of focus.
Yeah.
To just a random shot of this white, like the white corner wall where the ceiling intersects the wall. And it's sitting there for like 5 seconds, like, now what am I looking at? And then it pans over to the right, like, oh, she's on top now. Okay.
They were holding you in anticipation. That's the whole thing. They knew what you wanted to see. They just were like, we're not going to show it to you yet. You just get this white wall for a little bit.
Maybe that was accidentally left in, like they were just doing a reset.
That's what it felt like. Either
I
that or
think they just forgot to trim. Again, it's shot on film, which explains a little bit of some of the stuff that happened, especially if you get someone who, that knows the basics of film editing. But if you've got a little extra lead in, it could very well have been they reset up the shot and it was supposed to take off sooner, but they cut it, with the film. They didn't want to cut too much, but so they end up cutting because it is a tracking shot. Eventually, it's a pan, or I should say a pan shot. Of her
certainly was a rack focus.
It was a rack. Oh, but luckily they get clothed and wow, that was great. I'm finally glad we did this and whatever. And then the kid shows up and you're just like, how long has he been there? And then they chase him down to the basement and he turns in all demon child, literally demon child. For
it was like a mostly hairless werewolf.
Yeah, and werewolf boy. He's called Wolf Boy. So
is he? Okay.
Yeah.
The weird thing, like all the victims in this movie, or most of them, have this bizarrely delayed reaction time. Like the couple, they go down into the basement of the barn, they see the kid, they watch him transform, and yet they keep cutting back to this couple, like, or and meanwhile they cut back to the kid. He keeps transforming and getting more horrible looking, and then finally he kind of lunges out like they are at least 10-15 feet away at this point. They could have hightailed it up the stairs, just like Luann on the beach when the not Australian guy, all of a sudden the hand comes out of his chest and you got this claw like waving around,
and it grabbed her boob.
It grabbed her boob, but I swear to God, she was not that close to him. And she had at least a minute of reaction time. Like, why is there a demon hand coming out of you? I thought we were going to have sex.
I just love how the demon hand doesn't just come out. It comes out and grabs a little something and it does the killing.
Yeah, it's the Benny Hill demon.
It's the Benny Hill demon. That's right. And so all the band members have disappeared. And we have our man, and suddenly a demon appears, a really interesting demon puppet.
Well, wait.
What?
You missed the shower
we've
part, Mark.
Skipped
I
over
did.
About 15
the shower part. Yes.
Worth of terrible shower.
Yes. Tell us about the shower.
What do you mean terrible, Angelica?
We got to see some bodies there,
I mean, yes, there was body yaddy yaddy in the shower.
Body yaddy yaddy, I love it.
But
that's me Thor's next single.
Watching John Michael Thor attack this woman with his tongue, was terrible. And, I mean, that was like a bad Tinder date flashback. It's okay, Ian. You can laugh.
It's just playing out in my mind. I'm like, you poor thing.
I mean, I felt bad for her. I mean, geez. There's no water pressure in this farmhouse, number one.
And let's face it, they're shooting on film. They're in a shower scene. There's no steam. Therefore, this is not a warm shower that they're shooting this scene.
I didn't even think about that.
And given the acting, you could tell that John Michael Thor is a method actor. I'm sure he didn't have anything on either. So
yeah, I'm sure. He had a smile. He was wearing a smile in his abs. That's what he did.
I mean, what more do you need, really?
I guess so. His
I
six
mean,
pack and his smile. That's all he had.
yeah, that's all I ask for. You
Well,
know?
it's just okay. She's in the shower. Then when he steps in, I swear, it was like an optical illusion because I feel like he was 6 times bigger than that shower stall, and yet he
Yeah.
fit in there. He like
There
kind of
was-
overtook her, and wow.
Wasn't a whole lot of room. Yeah. But I mean, they were what, a couple. I don't think they were
Yes.
married. Yeah, but they were a couple.
Yeah.
They've been together a while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's there's some funny. You can't tell the characters apart in this movie, but they are kind of differentiated by their personalities. You've got the
Mhm.
married couple who are like doing dishes, and that's how they get whacked. You got the you got the horny non-Australian and his girl and
His girl, who's the lack of a better term, I apologize, is the bitch of the group. The
She did
diva.
have a really bad attitude.
She
She was not
had-
putting out positive vibes.
Well,
She
if I'd been
has the
stuck with
worst
that guy
attitude.
Stiggy, I would have had a bad attitude too. But the thing is, like, I liked Thor and his girlfriend's relationship because
Mhm.
it was that whole bit of like he's so obsessed with the music and writing songs, and she just wants to get laid that he's completely oblivious
Yeah.
until she literally has to stand there naked and be like, "Look, I'm getting in the shower."
Well, yeah, because he had that bed scene earlier to where she's literally in her lingerie, practically throwing herself completely at him, and he's looking at the sheet music. I'm prepared, whatever.
We've got to rehearse tomorrow.
We've got to rehearse tomorrow. And she's like, "What about tonight?" And he's just flipping pages, and I'm like, "Dude,
Read the room, Thor.
read the room. You got to read the room a little better, man. You just."
But okay,
Yeah.
the shower. This is why I compared it to The Room, because I assume you both have seen The Room.
Angelique has not.
I have not.
You've not?
I've not.
I'm hoping that this movie inspires you to see The Room.
I'm going to now that
Bring
you
alcohol.
keep mentioning it.
Bring alcohol, but
Yes, lots of alcohol. But
And don't
I'll have
watch
to
it
wait for my
alone.
day off.
don't watch it alone.
yes,
Find
if you
a
can watch it
friend.
with a friend. Watch it with a friend that it won't be awkward because
Yeah.
well, that's really hard because this movie is just awkward
The
all over the
love
place.
scenes are awkward.
And
yeah.
there's a lot of love scenes of the main guy like constantly naked. Thor is much better looking naked than Tommy Wiseau,
true.
fortunately. But yeah, like watching the shower scene, it just goes on forever. I'm like, what are we doing here? I think, like you were saying, Mark, they're padding for time.
They probably were trying to stretch it out for time a bit. And then we get our final 20 minutes. Ian, the last 15, 20 minutes of this film. After shower scene, and we get demons and all kinds of things going on.
He goes to the barn. Now, this is the only part where I will concede that it kind of steps into that horror comedy Evil Dead 2 realm.
Sure.
Because he goes to the barn, he's writing his sheet music at like this long, like a drafting table. It's a really nice setup they have in there.
Yeah, it is. That
And you
studio was beautiful.
Right. And then you see these demons start like poking their heads up. And then you see this one that looks like a grasshopper thing. It reminded me of the deacon from Prometheus. The thing that was not quite the xenomorph at the very end. And it's kind of like rearing its head. He's oblivious to all this stuff. And at one point he drops, I think he sets down his ultra slim can of Canadian Coca-Cola on the hand of the
Coke
one-eyed
Classic.
penis. Yeah,
Yes.
Coke Classic. On the hand of one of the demon monsters. And it's at that point where it like turns into a Muppet. It's like trying to repress its pain.
Complete with Kermit face. There.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
or Beaker. It was like a total like Beaker moment. But so then I think he drops the can on the floor. He drops something on the floor, and when he bends down to pick it up, the grasshopper demon flings itself across the room and misses him. And then he sits up and he keeps
Flies
writing
over him. Yeah.
right. And then all of a sudden, this demon. His girlfriend shows up.
Yes.
And she's like, hey, John, everybody's dead and the van's gone. And he's like, no, the van's right out front. What are you talking about? And this is the point where I knew I was onto something special because the demon is trying to like get one over on him, You know,
Yeah.
we've seen this in 100 movies, but he says, no, the van's right outside. And the demon's like confused.
Yeah.
Like, wait,
Like,
did I
what do you
fuck
mean?
up?
What?
And then he starts messing with this thing. And like, wait, is he really that oblivious?
All
And
your friends are dead. No, they aren't.
Mm.
Wait, no, they are. No, they're not.
And then she finally
But
just says,
no.
right. She basically says, screw it. And she transforms into this giant, black grayish demon thing. And he's like, well, little do you know that all my friends were actually, I conjure them up. They were never real. And I've been playing you this whole time. You're the demon. I am Triton, the archangel, and I'm here to fight for the justice of God or some nonsense. It turns into like Bible Man for some reason.
With spiky metal underpants.
With spiky metal underpants and glistening abs.
And the biggest hair under God's own sky. My Lord.
Right, and the revelation of the worm's eye view of the four boob and everything. But here's the poster for this, which you can see if you've read this movie.
Yeah.
It's like Thor in the kind of the black, shirtless outfit and the guitar, and then you've got the demon in the background. I was thinking that that was like the villain of the picture.
Right.
Like we're going to be watching a rock and roll demon, kind of like we did last week with Trick or Treat. But no, he's the hero. This is like a still from the climactic battle on the movie poster. And they start doing this crazy fight, but it's more like just a dance, and they're circling around each other and, slap fighting. And the demon is throwing the little starfish monsters at Thor. He's trying to like rip them off all like, Conan style or something. And
well, then
it's the best acting.
Two of them stuck to him, and then he's trying to peel it off, and then he's got the slime from them, and he just kind of.
But it mixes with the Astroglide, so he can't get it off. No.
What I love is just these things are literally being just flung at him from off screen.
Yeah.
And one, and like he's badly ducking most of them, but one gets caught in his hair.
Yeah, it does.
Because his hair's like some
it's so
delicious rooster comb of platinum blonde. Just
it's literally a mane, a lion's
feathered to
mane.
Jesus. This hair.
It is a beautiful. Whoever their hair stylist was needed an Academy Award for that. This was a plume of hair, and like you said, Angelique, the eyeshadow was like perfect. I mean, it like
that he has this iridescent white on the brow line. He's got a perfect cat eye and some
a little purple in there too.
Charcoal gray, yes. And the eyeliner is spot on. He's got some lip gloss kicking it. He's got a nice iridescent pink blush, just cut cheeks. Oh.
And he's got the wind that comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
Like during the reveal, like his hair just starts like blowing magnificently. And he turns into like the punk rock Wolverine, because he says at one point, he says, "You're wasting my time, bub." And I'm like, oh, just chef's kiss, beautiful.
He's a specimen. He's a specimen.
He is the intercessor, as we learned.
He is the intercessor,
which is the title of the sequel that they made.
Wait,
you were not aware of Intercessor, another rock and roll nightmare?
My little demon just spit in a cup, Mark.
Where does one find the Intercessor?
I have no idea. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's a sequel to this. That one was shot on video. Not like this one, which was shot on 16 millimeter. The Intercessor. Intercessor. 2005. 2005, The Intercessor. The Intercessor must fight the minions of darkness to save the last innocent souls on Earth. Starring John Michael Thor. Yeah, he's back, of course. I mean, if you're going to do a movie like this, you got to get...
Mark, I don't know if you can tell, but my eyes are actually watering, and it's not because I'm getting over a cold. This is the best news I've heard all day.
Yes,
I am a flutter. I've got the vapors. Fan.
So yes, there's Intercessor, another rock and roll nightmare. They made one in 2005. So that does exist.
Mark,
And
on my evening walk tonight, I helped 3 strangers push a lady whose van had run out of gas, helped her push her car along the road to a gas station.
oh, that was nice of you.
And that warmed my heart, but not nearly as much as knowing there's a sequel to Rock and Roll Nightmare out there.
I thought you were going to say that she turned into a giant starfish.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that would have made things perfect.
For the ride.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have been on the show if that was the case.
No, that you'd be too busy like taking pictures of the starfish woman.
So yeah.
I love what I love about the starfish creatures is that they're like out of nowhere. We were with these one-eyed monsters for a while, that like 2 or 3 variations. So you think they're going to really play into it, and then Mega Demon shows up, and then all of a sudden they start just chucking like starfish demons at him.
What I miss, and I wish that the little one-eyed monsters would have gotten in on the action, because when the grasshopper cat demon thing like says like rise up or whatever, like one of those little puppets has a switchblade.
Yes.
And he's like,
one's got a switchblade. I think the other one's smoking at one point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see these little dudes fight. Get in there.
Get in there. Come on. Quit with just the starfish. And of course, our man is he vanquishes the evil because he's the Intercessor. He talks them to death. Yeah.
Well, he's first of all, the song that's playing is like, we accept the challenge. But they're going round and round, like kind of like slapping each other and stuff. But at one point,
grabbing each other.
Right. But at one point you just see Thor go up and go like this. He like just mildly chokes the demon. And at that point, he says, "You win this time." And then he disappears in like a fireworks display. Like, I don't understand what it was about that final, very mild, like putting his hand up to his throat. That
it had something to do with the glow that happened in Thor's eyes after he got done dancing
eyes,
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because there was a kind of a glow in his eyes, I think, as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Maybe it was like some holy chokehold or something.
It was the Lord's chokehold
earlier.
I don't know.
I read about those as an altar boy, but never experienced
the Lord's
it.
chokehold. That's 5
Brother.
minutes. Brother. Let me show you something, brother. Wow. So he ends up being kicking ass for the Lord, is what apparently which again, at the beginning of this film, it is such a right turn in this film. That's what makes this, that's what I really think makes this film kind of endearing and interesting to watch, because for most of it, you're like, okay, this is what, and all of a sudden it just kind of goes, oh yeah? It's like Archangel, what?
Yeah.
There was a movie I watched a few years ago. I thought it was Suffer Little Children, but I don't think that's it. But at the end of it, like, it's about demons taking over, I think, like kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of it, Jesus Christ himself shows up and fights this demon.
Wow.
And I was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. I can't remember which title it was, but it reminded me very much of this, because it's a twist that you don't see very much. Usually you see the dark forces putting one over on the good guys, but in this point, it's the demon getting played, which it brings, as we mentioned, a lot of questions up. Like, how did this demon possess figments of the angel's imagination, and what was going on in that shower scene? Like, if Thor was in there by himself.
Maybe the Intercessor has a very rich fantasy life. And
I mean, he could
was enjoying some me time.
Well, I guess he's an angel. Like his form of like heavenly masturbation might involve like creating someone to be there in the stall with him, but
Yeah,
it's just too many questions.
he couldn't masturbate because masturbation is a sin, but he could have sex with his significant other. They don't say they're not married, they're together, but they could be married, and then that's okay.
But she doesn't exist, so it's masturbation anyway.
No, but not technically, because he's not actually beating the bishop. He's with, someone that could have been a spirit that he is, has conjured.
That doesn't fill me with relief either. Like some random spirit, hey, you get down in the shower.
Okay. All right. Let's see, today it's Linda. We're doing this.
You're thinking too hard with who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking of too many components. Yeah, because then that throws in all kinds of things. Well, if they're shadow, then what about the manager taking the groupies then?
Right.
And,
that was my whole thing. Were the groupies imaginary? Were
were they real?
Who rented the house?
Yeah.
If all this is imaginary.
Well, that's true because the groupies were there for the band. Did the band never exist?
Or does
the band exist and those were just manifestations of people who never actually went out to the farmhouse?
I'm thinking maybe it was like manifestations of his band members who were truly back in Montreal or whatever.
Right. Like he just made figments of them to go to this farmhouse because he knew it was possessed and that's where he could draw the two. See, this is what I love about this is like we're coming up with a whole rich backstory.
Or they were there, but instead of being the possessed ones, they actually at some point took off in the van, and they hadn't been around after the van left because remember the van leaves once the manager in quotes suddenly disappeared. They're like, oh, where's the van? These folks that he's conjured may not be self-aware that they're spirits, so they think they're the real people, and the van actually is taken off with the real people already.
So they survived because they went into town to get drunk, like Friday the 13th Part 2.
Right? Yeah. So they exactly. They actually went into town, and because they did record some songs before the really weird shit happened. So for most of them, except for one member. So
I was gonna say, wait a minute. The second song was done with the possessed drummer.
Right, that's right.
Maybe they realized he was too good.
He lost the accent, but got better. I'm not going to say anything. That's why they didn't say anything about the accent, because he got better at playing drums.
Yeah.
You see?
There we go.
So they're just like, okay, he doesn't have an accent anymore. I don't care. He played a hell of a lot better on that track. So, we just won't say anything. Never mind. He went from being the 1 minute bandit or whatever, which she called him, to being Mr. Stamina, apparently, after he's possessed. So, she's not going to care what his accent is because suddenly he seems to be surviving in bed a lot longer than what he used to. So,
but he did commit the egregious sin of tidy whities, though.
He did. He did have tidy whities, which I'm like, that's out of character. He would have had boxers if that was the case.
Dude, he's a rock and roll drummer.
Or none at all.
Like
Commando.
Sling.
Or commando. He could have been
banana. I like the banana sling idea.
Yeah. Some kind of Zubaz print banana sling.
Leopard print. Gotta have that leopard print.
I have a rich fantasy life, okay?
I want to see if all of these things come true in the sequel, The Intercessor, Rock and Roll Nightmare 2.
I'm not sure how good that one is, but it does exist.
What, compared to this?
But this is fun.
It's a great bad movie.
It is one of those so bad it's good movies. It's shot in 7 days. It's got a low budget. It's got interesting lead
That's why
character.
They were always doing dishes, because they were really eating.
They were actually eating.
That was crafty.
That's right. They worked in craft services and catering with the script. So you see, that's what happened. Especially the one scene, like when they were initially, when the band goes to practice the first night they're there, or the first meal they have. And so the manager's doing the dishes with the 3 ladies, because as they make a joke, oh, looks like our place is in the kitchen. And they're in there, and they aren't just washing and drying the dishes. They're bopping as they're doing it. Everybody, and they're smiling too. They're like, da, 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 da. So those were actual dishes, probably from that when they took a lunch break. Those were their actual dishes. So see, you killed two birds with one stone. You take care of the dishes, and you get a scene out of for the movie. So there.
My enthusiasm has dwindled a bit because I just looked on Blu-ray.com and I don't think this film has had a proper home video release.
It's had a DVD release.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it. Hang on.
She's got the DVD. Physical media rules. Woo. It hasn't had that much release though. It deserves a proper. There it is. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, it's reflective even.
Nice slipcase. When did that come out?
Let's see.
That is a nice slip.
2006. It's a Synapse.
Oh, there you
release.
go.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's got all kinds of special features too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ian's making a note. Gotta find that.
It will be mine.
So there you have it, folks. Rock and Roll Nightmare. What do you say, Ian? You mentioned it before, but final thought: is it so bad it's good? Rock and roll.
It's unlike any movie I've ever seen. And for that reason, you should definitely check it out. I think it's, even in its badness, it is infinitely watchable. It's not a boring movie, except some of the sex scenes go on too long. And yes, I did just say that. But yeah, I mean, the climax alone, and even the cum spitting little penis monster, it's one of those things like, my jaw actually fell open. I felt my eyes getting wider and wider and wider, like the people in Mad Max right before they become road pizza.
Yeah,
I just couldn't believe I was watching what I was seeing. Yeah,
just when you think no, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he's literally hawking a spooge loogie into this coffee cup.
and he just drank it. And what I love is when he takes a sip of it too. He's just like, oh well. And he's
I mean, we've seen stories in the news about this kind of thing. So
here's Mark. This is what I learned. That there is a place for Charles Band to go beyond the Evil Bong franchise. He needs to license these rock and roll gremlins or whatever they are.
Oh my lord! Oh wow! One-eyed monsters. Ooh,
don't mention his name. He's heard of He's stirred in his sleep.
We've just invoked the name of Charles Band.
Oh, look at that! He just put out 6 movies starring these characters. Weird.
He just woke up. One-eyed monster, the series. We'll have a crossover with Ginger Dead Man, and we'll even bring Evil Bong back in. And there you go. Yeah, the one-eyed monsters come from Sexy Hell, and there you go. Yeah,
the Goth Booby Stripper Club.
That's right. That's right.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first, folks. If he ever makes it, Angelique, this a rockin' so bad it's good film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's excuse me. It's like they're just so much fun, and you can tell that they were really just going for it. They had all the guts and gusto in the world. They may not have had a whole lot of money, but they made it happen. So
yeah, and that's the way I feel too. If nothing else, this film has a lot of heart behind it. They had a lot. They were making something with what they got, and they were making the most of it, and they came up with this just wild story that, yeah, as Ian said, you just have to watch it unfold, because as it unfolds, you will be like, huh.
Yeah, and if you're anything like me, you're a sucker for movies that have scenes in which actors are having something just flung at them off screen. Be it a cat, be it a possessed doll,
body parts like in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. There's like 5 feet thrown at Michelle Bauer in that wonderful opening kill. You know,
demon starfish monsters. I don't care if there's somebody having to dodge something being thrown by a PA.
Which you can totally tell is being thrown too. You're just seeing, you know, and
they're not even going frisbee style. They're going ninja style.
They're throwing overhand, man. They're not even like, they're throwing that shit overhand, and it's like, okay, John, the director's going, now on this one, it's going to stick to you. Quick, grab it. Ah, he missed. Okay, keep throwing. Just keep throwing. Come on.
It's in my hair. It's in my hair. Because you can tell there's a cut when that one strikes.
With the backlight and everything is him being an archangel. Yeah, it's it's one of those you watch with a group of friends at a party.
Endlessly gifable, the faces he's making.
Oh God, yeah.
While he's fighting.
He makes some wonderful face acting going on in there as well. So there you have it, folks. Rock and Roll Nightmare. Please check it out. All three of us will say it's so fun to watch. Again, it's a party movie for sure. Just get a group of people together. You got some fun music in there from the 80s. Definitely a bit dated, but yeah, it's definitely watchable. It's not one that's going to be a cringe or painful to watch. And you got a little bit of everything in here, and even more of some than other things. But thank you so much for my viewers for watching tonight, and thank you all for listening out there and your continued support. And now, as always, this is where I give a license to shill to my crew members. So Angelique, ladies first, a license to shill. The floor is yours.
Well, right now things on my end are a little crazy, so you're gonna find me mainly at monstersmadnessandmagic.com. You know, we've got some great shows coming down the pipe. You know, just have a listen.
Awesome. Wonderful interviews there as well. As you want to check all of those fun things out. And Mr. Ian Simmons, I'm sure you got one or two things you can plug.
Yeah, a couple. I'm Ian Simmons. I run Kicking the Seat, which you can find at kickseat.com or on YouTube at Kicking the Seat. Got a bunch of podcasts coming out and live streams and things I'm appearing on. There should be a new episode of 90 Under 90, a show that I do with the Eden Brothers, which we talked about. The movie Mayhem by Joe Lynch. We did that. It should be out on Thursday.
I have the soundtrack to that. You're talking about the Office one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, on Wednesday night, which, you know, this probably go up after the live stream. Right. But we'll be talking, as Mark alluded to earlier, we'll be talking about a different Thor, Love and Thunder, with Earth's Mightiest Critics. We're doing a live stream Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Central, which, again, you can go check the replay. But I have taken a year-long moratorium on superhero TV shows and movies, so I will be popping in to do intros and outros. But I'm going to let Earth's Mightiest Critics have at it and see who is left and who are still friends afterwards.
We'll see who survives. The DC shill, a.k.a. moi, may be finding himself defending a Marvel film, which, you know, hell may have frozen over at this point. I don't know. But when I'm with Earth's Mightiest Critics, and I don't know everybody's opinion, but I know a few people's, and if I'm the outspoken supporter of the MCU film, I don't know if that's a statement about the film or a statement about me, but there you go, folks. Yeah.
Will is convinced he's going to turn you, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Well, he won't turn me, but I have to for this film, especially after seeing it a second time. Yeah, it was even better the second time around for myself. So, yeah, for us, Sawdust City Fright Fest, second weekend in October. The selections will be announced August 1st, so look for that. And the Twisted Dreams Horror Fest in Milwaukee, the third weekend in October. So two great fests celebrating Midwest horror. Should be a lot of fun. And yeah, check out all our other stuff on specialmarkproductions.com. We appreciate every single one of you. And now we will just say, good night, everybody. Good night. Rock and roll. Yeah. Oh, I think I got a starfish on my boob.
He'll slide right off.